Hello guys, this is the Gaming Revolution here, and today I'm going to be explaining the storyline behind the Lil'ARNIes on Shadows of Evil. Now these creatures have taken many different forms. They're based off of many different things seen within the Cthulhu mythos and H.P. Lovecraft's work, and they're based off of quite a few different creatures. Now the storyline seems to be a mixture of all of them, but aesthetically they're quite similar to some more than others, but their storyline is like based off of another creature, if that makes sense. So they're based off of an eldritch abomination. Now, I just want to mention something which is very, very interesting, because the Lil'ARNIes seen on Shadows of Evil, they are actually like babies or offspring of the massive tentacle creature that spawns in the sky when you complete all of the Pack-a-Punch rituals. Now, a lot of people have been speculating about this for quite some time, but there is actually an audio quote on Shadows of Evil saying that they are actually the offspring of this creature in the sky. So when you're trying to explain and talk about this creature, just imagine them as the same things, just one of them has taken one form of the other. Now, first off, I just want to talk about the actual Lil'ARNIes creation, because although they are the offspring of this creature in the sky, we don't entirely know how they've ended up in this glass jar. But there are actually a few hints that we can find on Shadows of Evil to suggest how they've been put in this jar, because if we actually go over to Nero's lair, we see some very, very similar looking glass bottles. Now this could be a complete coincidence, but it is likely that Nero or someone else has used these glass bottles, and that's how they've actually put the Lil'ARNIes into the jar. Now a lot of people think that it is in fact Nero. Nero could have used black magic, and that's how come they've ended up in the jar, but that wouldn't really make any sense, because Nero of course doesn't really have anything to do with the actual mystery box and stuff like that, and for him to have actually been put this creature into the glass jar is just quite unlikely, since all of the characters just wake up in the zombie infection, so they weren't preparing for it, so there'll be no reason for Nero to do this, but it still is a possibility that Nero could have used black magic to put it into the jar. But in terms of what this creature is based off of aesthetic wise and storyline wise, well, I've come up with 3 different creatures to what the Lil'ARNIE and the Thing in the Sky are actually based off. Now the first one is actually a creature within H.P. Lovecraft's story called Gatan. Now it's really hard to pronounce because it has a very, very weird spelling. Now in a previous video I did actually talk about the fact that I believe the meatballs are also based off of this creature somewhat, and that's because within the Cthulhu mythos a lot of the actual beings seen within it are just described, and what this means is that people can interpret this creature in different ways. So some interpretations of this creature do in fact look heavily like the meatballs, however some other interpretations of this creature do look very, very similar to the Lil'ARNIes or the Thing that we see in the sky. As we can see from the images, it does look very, very similar to this creature. Now in terms of its actual story, the Gatan is a fictional deity in the Cthulhu mythos. The being first appeared in the short story Out of the Eons in 1935 by H.P. Lovecraft, and it is a large, amorphous, exceptionally hideous being compared to a Medusa. It's said to be so ugly that anyone who gazes upon it, or a perfect replica of it, will instantly be mummified. The victim is permanently immobilized, the body taken on the consistency of leather, and the internal organs and brain preserved indefinitely, yet remains fully aware. Only the destruction of the subject's brain can free it from its hellish prison, though the unfortunate is likely to be incurable, insanely long before the welcomed release. Now that doesn't really relate much to Lil'ARNIes and the Thing that we see in the sky on Shadows of Evil, because as I was saying, the storyline of these creatures doesn't have much relevance to it, although the other 2 creatures which I'm about to talk about have more sort of links towards it. However, I just want to say that this creature, as I said, is one which is more based off of this creature aesthetically wise rather than storyline wise. However, when the Lil'ARNIE is actually, you know, consuming everything around it, the actual zombies do sort of freeze for a few seconds before being consumed, and that is how they're being hypnotized. Now, the second creature of which I believe the Lil'ARNIEs and the Thing in the Sky to be based off is a creature called Azath. Now, this creature is more similar to the large creature that we see in the sky, because we can notice significant differences between the Lil'ARNIEs and the massive squid thing in the sky. There is big significance between them, and obviously when it grows up, its body form changes and its purpose changes and things like that. So Azath is actually another deity seen within the Cthulhu mythos and the dream stories of H.P. Lovecraft and other authors. He is the ruler of the outer gods. So a bit of a description of this creature reads as follows: outside the ordered universe is that amorphous blight of nethermost confusion which blasphemes and bubbles at the centre of all infinity. The boundless daemon Sultan Azath, whose name no lips dare speak aloud, and who gnaws hungrily in unconceivable unlightened chambers beyond time and space, amidst the muffled maddening beating of vile drums and the thin monotonous whine of accursed flutes. So the creature that we see in the sky is definitely storyline wise more based off of this creature rather than Gatan Athwa. Now, it goes on to say that Lovecraft referred to Azath again in The Whisperer in Darkness in 1931, where the narrator relates that he started with loathing when told of the monstrous nuclear chaos beyond angled space which the Necronomicon had mercifully cloaked under the name of Azath. Now, I'm sorry if I keep messing up his name, it's hard to pronounce. Now, here, nuclear most likely refers to Azath's central location at the nucleus of the cosmos, and not to nuclear energy, which did not truly come of age until after Lovecraft's death. In The Dreams in the Witch House in 1932, the protagonist Walter Gilman dreams that he is told by the witch Kezia Mason that he must meet the Black Man and go with them all to the throne of Azath at the center of ultimate chaos. He must sign in his own blood the Book of Azath and take a new secret name. What kept him from going with her to the throne of chaos, where the thin flute pipe mindlessly was, the fact that he had seen the name Azath in the Necronomicon, and knew it stood for a primal horror too horrible for description. Gilman wakes from another dream remembering the thin, monotonous piping of an unseen flute, and decides that he had picked up that last conception from what he had read in the Necronomicon about the mindless entity Azath, which rules of all time and space from a curiously environed black throne at the center of chaos. He later fears finding himself in the spiral black vortices of that ultimate void of chaos wherein reigns the mindless demon Sultan Azath. So this creature is like an all-powerful being, and it's really powerful, and it has the potential to consume whole universes. Now, when we're actually completing the rituals to complete Pack-a-Punch, obviously the Shadow Man is tricking us into thinking that if we don't do this, the world will be consumed. But instead, he's actually helping the world be consumed in itself, because he's helping us summon this creature, and obviously this creature will literally consume the world, and it's a really powerful being. Now, the third and final creature, which I do believe inspired the creation of the Lil'ARNIEs and obviously the actual adult of the Lil'ARNIEs, the thing we see in the sky, is another eldritch abomination. However, this one's quite different because it's not really based off of the Cthulhu mythos as such, but it's an actual creature seen within Star Wars called Sarlacc, and literally its actual physical appearance is identical to that of the Lil'ARNIE and the thing we see in the sky. It's got this face in the middle with this big mouth, two massive jaws with this massive tongue in the middle, just like we see on the Lil'ARNIE and just like we see with the creature in the sky, and then it's got tentacles wrapping around it. But the creature on Star Wars is coming out of the ground, but the creature on Shadows of Evil is coming out of the sky. but I don't think its storyline ties much into the two creatures, but I definitely do think Treyarch were inspired by this, or in fact this creature within Star Wars was most likely inspired by another creature within the Cthulhu mythos, and now it's been inspired to obviously create the Lil'Arnies and the Thing in the Sky, which within Shadows of Evil, so it all ties around. Now, its actual biology and appearance, well, the Sarlaccs would begin to live their lives as spores and were able to travel great distances. When a male and female encountered one another, the smaller male would parasitically feed on the female, diminishing her size while increasing her own. Once the male reached the female's original size, he would burst, releasing millions of spores into the air and atmosphere. Once Sarlaccs reached their maturity after 3,000 years, they would burrow themselves nearly 100 meters below the surface, feeding on creatures unfortunate enough to fall into their mouths. Victims of the Sarlacc would be injected with immobilizing neurotoxins that cause constant pain, and while still conscious, would be digested for millennia. Now, this description actually really does fit and tie in to how they actually relate on Shadows of Evil, because these creatures essentially they just feed on everything they can. In this case, they feed on the zombies, but they literally could eat anything, and it's why they still hurt us when they actually explode at the end. But they are actually porous creatures, so that how they actually breed is via spores, and the spores go out and disperse and things like that. But what I find interesting is that the male is always a lot larger. I mean, the female is always a lot larger than the male, so most likely the one that we see in the sky is a female, and the Lil'Arnies are most likely the males. But anyways, that's going to conclude today's video. That's pretty much everything that the Lil'Arnies and also the massive tentacle squid thing that we see in the sky is actually based off. It's very, very interesting indeed, but you can let me know all of your thoughts on it down in the comment section down below. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you have any more suggestions on things that you want me to explain, just leave them down in the comment section down below, as well as if you find anything else about the Lil'Arnies or the thing in the sky that I haven't explained within this video, you can drop some suggestions down in the comment section as well. So anyways, thank you for watching the video, make subscribe if you're new to hear the latest and greatest Black Zombies news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.